For the best part of 3 years, I worked with Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House of Commons, on a daily basis when Parliament was sitting. Knowing him as I do, I have absolute confidence in his suitability to remain Speaker. Lindsay is a man of the greatest integrity, honour and impartiality. Of Leader of the House, or indeed as Shadow Leader, there are endless discussions that go on about the decision a Speaker has to make every day. Sometimes these go in your favour, sometimes not. On occasions they cause political inconvenience, sometimes for your opponents rather than for you. But all sides need to have confidence that the Speaker makes his decisions with the best interests of the House of Commons at heart. And I'm absolutely convinced that Lindsay does this. He is there to protect the interests of all members of the House of Commons, not the government of the day. And inevitably, some of his decisions will annoy, rile and irritate the government side. And this is what happened yesterday. The Speaker, thinking he was acting for the best and in the interests of all members of Parliament, decided to break with tradition, which he is entitled to do, whether this decision was right or wrong. But that is not the fundamental point. What matters is whether he made it impartially and free from undue influence. And I am confident that he made it in the right spirit, regardless of whether the decision was the one the clerks advised. Ultimately, the Speaker needs to rise above the rows that take place on the floor of the House. He is the impartial arbiter, the judge, the Dickie Bird, so to speak, of the proceedings that take place. And I therefore hope that my fellow Conservatives, who have signed, a few of them, a vote of no confidence in him, will reflect on what they're doing, because they're really helping the SNP, Scottish Nationalist Party, which wishes to destroy the United Kingdom and, of course, wants to undermine our institutions. So when it has an opportunity to kick a Speaker, it will naturally take it. But why should Conservatives, Tories join in? Shouldn't they recognise that in the interests of the Constitution and the dignity of Parliament, we should sometimes accept, indeed quite often accept, that a Speaker will make a decision in good faith that we do not like? There is, however, one thing about which we should be even more concerned, and that is about the safety of the body politic. Are members of Parliament free to vote in the Commons without being afraid of the consequences? If they're not, democracy itself is under threat, along with individual members, and the history of this is so important. If you go back to the reign of Elizabeth I, an MP, Peter Wentworth, was put in prison by the House for saying none is without fault, no, not our gracious Queen. If we are back to a state where what you say in the House could put you in prison or could put you at threat rather than in prison, then that says something serious about the state of the United Kingdom if Parliament bows to a sectarian mob. Well, the independent reviewer of Prevent, Sir William Shawcross, has given an interview to The Telegraph 1 year after the publication of his review. Sir William has said that extremism is not being effectively tackled by the government and that it hasn't fully implemented his proposals. And he seems to be right. Since the 7th of October attacks in Israel, we have seen the emboldening of extremists in London every weekend. Calls for jihad, explicit support for and glorification of terrorism, of Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis. We have also seen a huge spike in anti-Semitism last night outside Parliament as the Commons was erupting on the inside. Pro-Palestine protesters projected onto Parliament itself from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. When GBNews' very own Martin Daubney pointed this out, the police did nothing. Sir William Shawcross rather presciently warned ministers about Islamist extremists a year ago. You can't help think that if we had acted earlier, we may have stopped the situation we are in today, where politicians feel the need to cow to sectarian mobs that intimidate Jewish people, members of Parliament, and the public at large.